Hello, BookTube. I've got a Thursday MegaStuff video for you here. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so it might be short. And it starts with a periodical. It starts with the TLS, and this will be a TLS that some of you will have seen before, because Sean Standfast, the booktuber Sean Standfast, gets the TLS as well, and he had this earlier than I did by quite a bit, quite a wide margin. I get my periodicals late, even when they're shipped from America. I still manage to get them late. And this one, therefore, because I watched Sean's videos, you all should. He's got a wonderful channel. I knew already what the biggest shock of this issue would be. I skipped right to it, went by all the rest of the stuff in here. One of the things in the middle of this issue that infuriated me, I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to dwell on it on this issue. I'm just not. Is this intersection here, 4 short reviews of fiction. All of the novels being reviewed are books that were on the Booker, the Woker 2020 list, in place of their betters. These are all the debut novels that were on there, or the Who's That novels in place of the great writers of our time, writing at the peak of their power. These books were forwarded instead, including Real Life by Brandon Taylor, which is his debut novel, and is a novel in which he has said he does not want white people to read it. And despite the fact that we live in the 21st century, and despite the fact that the progressive left in the 21st century absolutely believes that 2 wrongs can make a right, 2 wrongs actually don't make a right. And a young author saying in an interview, I don't want white people to read my book, is a racist thing to say. It should end his career. Instead, he's been applauded for it. So although I might read a couple of these books, I haven't read any of the 4 of them. Although I might read a couple of them, I won't read his. Obviously, not just because he's pointedly told me not to, but also because who wants to reward him with my time and attention, with my money? Who wants to reward a racist that way? And the thing that irritated me is that these things are here because they were on that Booker list. And they weren't on that Booker list for literary reasons. But they're nevertheless getting a review in the TLS, which a million authors yearn for and never get. And it's just the cycle of it really bugged me. But far more disturbing was that Sean Standfast was right. The NB column at the back, written by JC, is ending. And that is amazing to me. I've been reading this thing for a long time. We're told this NB is the last in which you will read the initials JC at the foot of the column. Now, I don't know if that means that the column itself is continuing with someone else writing it, but I think it's pretty clear why JC, who turns out to be James Campbell, is ending his run on NB. It's pretty clear why. The little mention in the article here goes through all the different things that they've done, but before James Campbell wraps up his run on NB, he lets off a little apostrophe of outrage that reads like this. Did we poke fun at pomposity, hypocrisy, and just plain stupidity? Yes. But we never suggested that someone should be removed from a post, such as the editor of poetry, for committing a fault that merely goes against current trends. Being briefly mocked ought to be sufficient chastisement, bringing with it the right to respond in kind, as such mockees rightly did. The most dramatic change in the literary atmosphere during our stewardship is this. From the 1920s through to the Lady Chatterley trial and beyond, it was the legal and political authorities who tried to ban books and restrict freedom of expression. Radicals and rebels fought against the very act of banning. Prohibitions on speech and publication now arrive from the identity-conscious children of the same radicals, leaving it to the law to protect the freedom of the imagination. That strikes me as personal, and I'm interpreting from that, which we'll probably never know unless James Campbell writes a memoir. I'm interpreting from that little apostrophe in the middle of an otherwise friendly look back at his time on NB, that he was told to go rather than chose to go. And for those reasons, specifically for those reasons, for tilting so often as he did in his column against 21st century censorious right speak. That says you're only allowed to have these opinions and you're only allowed to express them in these ways. And if you deviate from that orthodoxy, we will dox your wife, We'll dox your children. We'll have people at your children's bus stop. We'll try to get the headmaster of their school to expel them. We'll try to get your boss to fire you. We'll try to get your wife's boss to fire her. We'll find out where your parents have their jobs and have them hounded out of them because you have disagreed with right speak. Not because you're evil, just because you disagree. That's all. JC, James Campbell, fought against that kind of new censorious orthodoxy a lot in a fairly high-profile column. And I have a feeling, my guess, my theory, until I'm proven otherwise, will be that that's why he's no longer doing it. Which makes me shudder to think what NB will be like if it continues with someone else writing it. The very thought of the NB column suddenly trying to be walking on eggshells woke the way so many columns and reviews are in the 21st century is horrifying. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. We shall see. We'll find out together. Because I subscribe to the TLS. So despite the fact that this issue disappointed on more fronts than it pleased, there'll be another issue right after. We also have mail. There's some mail that we can look at here, and then we'll be done. We have just 2 packages. I seriously doubt that anything is going to equal, much less surpass, that illustrated unfinished Tales of Tolkien from yesterday. That was I'm hip deep in it, and I'm having a great time. All right. Well, this comes awful close. This is awful close. This is The Invention of Medicine, From Homer to Hippocrates, by Robin Lane Fox, by the great Robin Lane Fox, who has 2 books in this room. Which those of you who are new to the channel aren't going to have any idea what that means. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This room is my little book room. It is my little sanctum sanctorum. And it has my favorite books. It has the books that I love. I have other rooms that are full of books, but these are not here by chance. These books are the ones that I love. And Robin Lane Fox has a couple of books in here. Robin Lane Fox is a terrific author. Fantastic. Okay, so what have we got here? The preeminent classic scholar revises the history of medicine. So this is due in early December. Medical thinking and observation were radically changed by the ancient Greeks, one of the great legacies to the world. In the 5th century BCE, which means before Common Era. Why is it common? Because of Jesus Christ. the former owner of the sea in BC was Jesus Christ. But because you don't want to offend anybody, you change it to that. I'm sensing a theme emerging here. A Greek doctor put forward his clinical observations about individual men, women, and children in a collection of case histories known as the epidemics. Among his working principles was the famous maxim, do no harm. In The Invention of Medicine, acclaimed historian Robin Lane Fox puts these remarkable words in a wider context and upends our understanding of medical history by establishing that they were written much earlier than previously thought. Lane Fox endorses the ancient Greeks' view that their text's author, not named, was none other than the father of medicine, the great Hippocrates himself. Lane Fox's argument changes our sense of the development of scientific and rational thinking in Western culture and explores the consequences for Greek artists, dramatists, and the first writers of history. Hippocrates emerges as a key figure in the crucial change from an archaic to a classical world. Okay. All right. I'm all for it. So it's early December. I'm not going to be reading books in early December, but I will get this one done before then. Well before then. And then we have this thing, this next package here, which is it's kind of a box. It's kind of a flat box. So I don't know what's going to be in here. You've got no Bean today. No Bean attacking the packaging. She's just not feeling up to it. Let's see here. What do we got here? Okay. All right. This is a finished copy. Comes out in mid-October from the great folks at Princeton University Press. It's called The Murder of Professor Schlick, The Rise and Fall of the Vienna Circle by David Edmonds. What have we got here? Paints an unforgettable portrait of the Vienna Circle, a group of philosophers who championed logical empiricism set against the backdrop of economic catastrophe and rising extremism in Hitler's Europe. The Vienna Circle's members included Otto Neurath, Rudolf Carnap, and the eccentric logician Kurt Gödel. On its fringes were two other philosophical titans of the 20th century, Ludwig Wittgenstein and Karl Popper. For a time, the circle was the most fashionable movement in philosophy. Yet by the outbreak of World War II, the circle had been disbanded and almost all its members had fled. The murder of Professor Schlick reveals why the Austro-fascists and the Nazis saw their philosophy as such a threat. Okay, great. I knew this author's name. This is, among other things, the author of Bobby Fischer Goes to War, which was really good. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so this comes out in mid-October. So we have the two books for today are two works of serious history. Great. As far as the small mail haul goes, I can't ask for better than that. Great. So I will put a note in both of these for their dates, put them on my tiny new release shelf. No longer a whole bookcase. And that is it. That will be your MegaStuff video for today. I don't have any updates on anything else. So I will wrap this up for now, and see you tomorrow. I guess the one last reminder that I want to mention, I leave it in the description of my videos every day, but it's worth mentioning, I suppose, over and over again, once in a while, which is that I have joined the rest of humanity in having a podcast. I have a podcast. I was asked by somebody at the Cedarburg Public Library in Wisconsin to do a podcast for them, and we do. It's not a huge investment of your time. It's every day, Monday through Friday. It's broadcast on the Cedarburg Public Library's internet radio station at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time every day, but it's also on their podcast page so that you can download episodes and watch, listen whenever you want. And it's just me talking about bookish stuff. It's not quite as ad hoc as this channel, and it doesn't go on as long. Most of my podcast episodes are in the neighborhood of 6 to 7 minutes. Just an extra little bit of bookishness that you might want to add to your day. Certainly, the more downloads there are for the podcast, the more firm ground I might be on with the with the Cedarburg Public Library. But let me know if you like it. That would be great. One of the weird things that I'm discovering, my producer has been pointing this out to me, one of the weird things that I'm discovering about doing a podcast, at least this particular kind of podcast, is what is a radical difference between it and BookTube, which is I'm not getting any responses. We're in dialogue, right? You can email me about any subject that you want. You leave comments, and unlike a great many other people on YouTube, I love my comments. Read them, respond as many as I can. But with a podcast, you're just yelling out into the wind, and you have no idea, aside from raw numbers, download numbers. Aside from that, you have no idea whether or not you're striking a chord. So feel free to go over and listen. It will be in the information in the show notes, as Sean the Book Maniac puts it, every day anyway. So feel free to go over there and listen to as many episodes as you like. But anyway, that's it for now. I will wrap this up, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.